Hello girls, gays, and theys. My name is Calico Spritz. I am a budding burlesque performer, and today I'm going to be talking through what it was like to design my first ever burlesque costume while I'm getting ready for a show tonight. I'm going to be picking up money and stripper droppings off the floor as a stage kitten, and I gotta look cute while I'm doing it. So grab your spritz and let's get ready. This first get ready with me is actually going to be super helpful because I actually have no idea how long it takes me to get ready. I started taking classes in September, October maybe of 2023, and it was right after I went on my honeymoon. My wife and I went to Berlin for a week. I was like, I gotta do myself a favor and book us tickets to a burlesque show. So while we're at this burlesque show, I'm watching everybody on stage, and to be frank, it was a weird show. After having performed for a while now, it was just bonkers in such a DIY way. All of the wait staff, all the bartenders were also the performers. It was very kooky and I loved it. But while the performers were on stage, I had this nagging little feeling. And it's a feeling that I've had since I was a teen. And it's that feeling of watching somebody doing something and going, I could do that. I can do that. And so we came back from our honeymoon and I just Googled burlesque lessons in Los Angeles, and I found a group called Empowerment in Heels, and I recognized the teacher from when my wife and I had stumbled into a burlesque performance about a year prior. Her name is Miss Marquez. She has bright green hair, and that's how I knew it was her. And I thought, I've seen her perform. I know she can teach me how to perform. So I started taking classes, and for a while, I was taking just improv classes, and they offered a 6-week intensive course. And over the 6 weeks, we were gonna go from start to finish, developing a full act. And I knew that I wanted to create a clown act. Some people call it clown-lesque. And I had an idea for a costume, and it was based on this cream sheer jumpsuit that I already had. And I've had it for a really long time. I thought that is gonna be the base. There were a few costume pieces that I knew I wanted, but I didn't know how to make yet, that I ordered. So I ordered a clown ruffle for around my neck and ruffles for around my wrists as well. But I had kind of no clue what it would be like, finding a corset and like what kind of undergarments I was gonna wear. So throughout the course of this intensive, we went downtown in Los Angeles to a place called the Fashion District, where there's a ton of fabric stores, there's lingerie stores, there's stores that like only sell beads and rhinestones, there's stores that only sell the trim that you put on the edge of a piece of fabric, and it's such an incredible resource, and I'm frankly so lucky to have that. But some of the pieces that I ended up using for this costume, I did end up ordering online, because I was nervous and I really wanted to get my costume done fast, and I didn't want to wait until we went downtown. And so I pre-ordered a bunch of trim, like stretchy elastic, stuff like that. Because the main costume piece that I was going to be working with was a sheer cream color, I knew pretty early on that I wanted the base underneath to be nude. Nude to my color, so like a peachy, creamy color. And I did a lot of Goodwill searching for nude bras, nude bottoms, and I was kind of coming up with nothing until I found the perfect nude satin bodysuit. And I saw it and I thought, that could be a top and a bottom. So I bought the bodysuit and I put it on, and I found where on the bodysuit I could chop it in half, and I chopped it in half. I added some elastic that somehow was the perfect color that I bought on Etsy. Then I had a top and a bottom, which was so exciting. I also ordered a mesh corset for the first time. You'll see mesh corsets on a lot of performers. Particularly, I've noticed them on performers who are just getting into burlesque. They are so versatile. You know, you can use them in all types of burlesque settings, whether you're working on something a little bit more classic, whether you're working on something a little bit more neo. They're sweet because they're flexible. The one that I got has steel bones, and so they really help give you a defined shape that you want. And there's something really sexy about the like little peekaboo mesh moment. So I got a mesh corset, and I ordered it in a nude color, hoping that it would match, and it didn't. I got it from a brand called Orchard Corset, and they are simply awesome. They make steel-boned corsets, and they're always having sales. I think I got a nude one and a black one at the same time because they were doing like a buy one get one half off situation. Look for deals because they're always doing it. I get a text almost every single day with a discount code from them. I don't always need them, but I always want them. Orchard Corset. I'll leave a link. So when this nude corset came in, it was kind of this like, I think they called it toasted almond on the website. It was more orange than it was nude, and that just wasn't what I was going for. And I just happened to have enough of this, you know, ballerina slipper pinky nude color that I was working with to completely cover each bone of the corset. When I tell you that this was quite the undertaking, I ain't lying. It was wild. So I hand stitched this elastic onto the corset, and I would say it probably took me about a week off and on, and it turned out exactly the way I envisioned it. After I changed the color, it was time to rhinestone. And so after the costume trip that I did with my class, I had bought a ton of rhinestones, and it's never enough. It's never how many you think you need. It's always wildly less. Over another long period of time, I rhinestoned this corset. I rhinestoned the top and the bottom, and then my next area of focus was the jumpsuit. Now before we move on to the jumpsuit, I want to talk a little bit about the top and bottom because there was a lot for me to consider here. Getting into burlesque is so much fun, and it's daunting, right? Because you're going to be showing your body off to essentially the public in a way that maybe you haven't before. To be frank, during lockdown, my body changed a lot, and so there were ways in which I needed to make sure that for this act, I felt very comfortable. So that meant I was going to go with a high-waisted bottom and something that resembled a bullet bra from the 1950s. The top that I had that I made from the bodysuit was not a bullet bra. I ended up creating the look of a bullet bra actually by using my sewing machine and stitching on lines that would make it look the way I wanted to. It's actually really empowering to have a vision like that for the first time and just make it happen. These eyebrows are not cooperating today. We're just gonna go with these, okay? It was really exciting to create the look of a bullet bra without having to pay the price for a bullet bra, because I do not come from money. I work a full-time job, but you know, times are tough. And one of the things that I want to do throughout my career as a burlesque performer is source as sustainably as possible. So I start in my closet first. What do I already have? Then I move on to thrift stores, including a craft thrift store. I'll talk about this place as long as I can because it's incredible. A place called Remainders in Pasadena is a thrift store that's only for craft supplies. It's where I source fabric, it's where I source trims, but most importantly, it's where I source things like hook and eyes and snaps and all those kinds of things. They're always so cheap. And if you're looking to get into crafting and you don't want to spend a ton of money starting a new hobby, but you really want to start the new hobby, go to a thrift store. If you're in Pasadena or around it, go to Remainders because it's the perfect place to do that. Okay. And then if I can't find it at a thrift store, my next place to go is to the fashion district, buying new materials. And if I'm like really on a time crunch, on a budget, I'm having a hard time executing a vision, then I will move into, going to a local business, trying to find something in store there. Last ditch effort is going online. Because I'm trying to, lower my footprint, but also I want to support local businesses. Moving on to the rhinestones was really fun because I got to sort of plan out the pattern for the first time. I hadn't really done that. And it feels daunting, but something that my mentors, Flash and Mountains and Miss Mark has suggested, and I have followed this advice, is that if you're working on a piece for a performance, you can always start small, perform in it, and continue on from there. And that's something that I've taken into every costume that I've made or that I'm still in the process of making, is that I'll pick an area, like for example, the front of the bottoms is rhinestoned to this day, but the back isn't. And that's intentional because someday I'll rhinestone the back. I wanted to make sure that I was starting with something that I knew looked good, but not overwhelming myself. We had 6 weeks, and that was to develop the entire performance, not just the costumes. So I've got the tops done, I've got the bottoms done, and I've got the corset done. They're all the right color. They are all rhinestoned, and now it's time to move on to the jumpsuit. And the jumpsuit has been something that I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, this is a piece that I know is gonna be so easy. I'm just gonna pop it on, and then I'm gonna take it off, right? Well, as I mentioned earlier, my body went through a lot of changes during lockdown. And I was about a week out, and I realized when I tried to run the number, I could get the jumpsuit on, but I couldn't get it off. What a nightmare. What a nightmare! And so I had to get creative. There's 3 buttons on it, there's an elastic waist, but it's not enough for me to get it over my hips without looking like a maniac. So I did some thinking, and my brain told me, well, if you can't get it off, you could add a zipper. And then I thought, what if that zipper goes from here to here? And I unzip from the back, pull it through my crotch, and unzip the whole thing into 2 pieces. Remember, it's a clown act, so I was like, this is actually going to be perfect because it's going to be goofy and it's going to be unexpected. And I needed something like a 72-inch zipper, and I got that zipper in and I installed it with maybe 2 days to spare. This zipper tested my will in ways I could not have imagined, because when it got to me, it wasn't the kind of zipper that just split in half at the end. So then I had to buy the closure that would help it split in half at the end. You know when you take a hoodie off, you zip it up and then you unzip it and it comes apart? The zipper didn't do that. So then I had to make it do that. Don't talk to me about it. I'm groaning about it now, but I had a great time. It was so exciting to figure out how I was going to make it work. The last couple pieces of the costume were the shoes, which were my first ever pair of dance heels with suede bottoms. They're the same ballerina pink nudie satin. They're perfect. I didn't add any rhinestones to them because I feel daunted by that process. I feel like if I glue them on, they're more likely to come off than if I buy a pre-stoned pair of shoes. And I don't know if that's true. Maybe we can find out together someday. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't mess it up for this first performance. And then the last couple pieces were a sheer red set of gloves and some props. So a prop that I made for the act was one of those never-ending scarves. I'll insert a clip. And that scarf then got attached to a little flower that squirt water, and oh my gosh. It was so joyful to use those props during the performance because the first half of this act was more classically inspired. When it comes to burlesque, it was to an Eartha Kitt song. She's one of my all-time faves, and I love dancing to her music. She's got such a unique voice, but in addition to that, there's always a little edge to whatever she's singing, and I appreciate and relate to that. So that was the first song in the number. And then when the jumpsuit came off, we switched to a St. Vincent song. The vibe was different, and so I loved being able to incorporate these classic clown magic bits in this first half, and then I took the second half to just sort of revel in feeling sexy and leaning into the art of the tease more than the art of clowning. Then we did a striptease workshop where we got the tea on how to take clothes off, and not just take them off, but what to do with them afterward. Something you don't really think about. If you see a performance, you're like, oh, okay, the thing of burlesque is them taking the clothes off. The thing of burlesque is the tease, right? It's about what happens with the piece of clothing before you even begin to take it off. Gingerly Valentine has an incredible method called the STAR method that I really try to follow when my adrenaline doesn't absolutely take over my body during a performance. The method is called the STAR method. So say you're wearing a glove. You're gonna spell out the word STAR in your head. You're gonna show the glove. You're gonna tease the glove. Ooh, I'm about to take it off. Then you're gonna actually take it off, and then you're gonna reveal it. Both the piece of clothing and your bare arm. Oh, ooh. Something that was said during that workshop, which I never forgot, and which I don't always adhere to, but I really try, is that you spend all this time working on these beautiful pieces of clothing, and then a lot of performers will simply kick them out of the way with their foot as if they're nothing. And you want to honor the clothes that you spent a lot of time on. You also want to make sure they're safe. Okay, now this look is coming together. This has kind of been the default makeup that I've been doing for the last, I don't know, maybe 6 months at this point. This reddish, rusty tone on the eyes just marries so well with my hair color, to the point where it's kind of like a neutral. I also experimented a lot with rhinestone placement, and I love putting these stones right in line with where my pupil would be if I were looking straight ahead, because I feel like it really just draws the eye right to them. When I wore this clown, I was gonna say clown suit, and I guess that's kind of it. When I wore this clown suit to the striptease workshop and worked with it for the first time, I experienced what I feel like is gender euphoria. You know, RuPaul often talks about how drag helps to reveal your truest self, and I feel like when I do burlesque, it's the same. And I also think it's drag adjacent. I think that my gender is queer in the way that my sexuality is queer. And when I perform high femme, I feel like I am performing femininity. That might be obvious to some people, but it really wasn't for me until I sort of started doing it and went, oh, I'm like tapping into this specific part of myself. Okay, the look is just about done. Let's pop on a red lip. Okay, thank you for sitting here with me as I got ready for this show. It was really nice to think back on what it was like to do my first act. It was actually, wow, it was actually almost exactly a year ago, so it feels good. I actually can't believe it's been 1 year. It feels like it's both been a lifetime and like it was yesterday. Oh. Let me know if you like the style of this video, if you want me to do some more little get ready with me chats where we just casually sort of sit and talk about the things that I'm learning and the progress I hope to continue to make. If you like this video, you know what you gotta do. You gotta like the video so Daddy YouTube knows that this is a good sparkly little corner to be, okay? You gotta subscribe so that we can see each other a little bit more often. And until next time, grab your spritz and I'll see you on the other side.